Hello. Thank you. First, thank you to Camille and to Ghislaine for having us here at the University of Greenwich. It's really great to be involved in such a wonderful event with so many amazing artworks and just brilliant speakers and just so much to think about. This is Display Studio. We are Display Studio. I'm Ben Neal. This is Kerryn. We're an immersive performance studio, and we kind of work at the intersection of dance, film, and theatre and technology. We've got a VR piece in the basement. Please sign up, come and check it out. It's called Facades, and this is called Perceiving Facades. It's about some of the more interesting topics that are included in the artwork and discussions that have come from making it and actually experiencing it. We aim to create kind of deep interpersonal experiences that gently kind of push and pull you and invite you to question your senses and exploring the perception of reality. And we like to work in those liminal spaces between the kind of the known and the unknown. And our works often take the form of sort of intimate, dreamlike journeys through uncertain places, which we hope are rich in symbolism and metaphor, and in which curious behaviours are encountered. So that's kind of our introduction, I guess.
So we've made several works together where we blend technology with live performance, and these take place in both fully virtual spaces, like the piece Facades that we made, which kind of was a lockdown project, and we made a lot of it on Zoom together, and then separately working in the studio and bringing it together. And then we've made several works that are site-specific, that also involve live performance and technologies. Our talk today is going to focus mainly on Facades. We're touring it at the moment, and it's, as Ben said, available downstairs, so come and see it over the next few days. It's a 15-minute room-scale VR experience where the audience member is subtly guided through different domestic spaces which have been built using Unity. Within this virtual set, participants encounter a volumetrically captured performer playing different versions of herself and other. Inspired by cinematography, the work draws on iconic moments from films that use the architectural features of mirrors, windows, and doors as metaphors for duality, reflection, and portals. This unique theatrical dance journey invites solo audience participants to engage with digital representations of a female performer, who, when viewed frontally, looks complete. However, when looking around the edge of the illusion, she becomes a fractured concave shell, a spectral facade.
So at this point, we're going to show you a very short clip of Facades. Just to give you a bit of an insight into some of the imagery and some of the audience responses we've had.
It's almost like time slowed down and I was just transported to a different place.
In a way I existed, but also not.
I feel a little bit blown away. I feel like all my senses are a bit heightened.
So just a very short snippet, hopefully just to whet your appetite a little bit. Please do come and see it.
So in designing Facades, we utilise the aesthetic qualities that a single camera setup offers. So the dancer is shown with one particular perfect angle. As audiences step around the edges of the illusion, the performer's body morphs between realistic and abstract imagery. Additionally, rather than following kind of set procedures for cleaning up the vocab imagery through post-processing, we chose to highlight the fractured edges and glitched appearance of the performer, enhancing the ethereal qualities and the artistic effects of the illusion. This revealing highlights her digitalness, her imperfections, her hollow shell, thus prompting the participant to consider how digital representation is created and exposed. In Facades, we are inviting participants to inhabit positions and perspectives that shift and break their own sense of presence, which allows them to perceive the virtual world and perform it differently. In the feedback, participants expressed a strong sense of connection to this imperfect, vulnerable woman and a yearning to care for her, despite her being a fractured digital shell. Moving away from VR's pursuit for the perfect human replica through photorealistic avatars, Facades is interested in the audience relationship to these fractured performers and what this conjures. One participant said that the flickering pixelated images, solid but not solid, made me think of them as digital ghosts. Another said that I found the breaking up of the image of the performer had an emotional quality. So often people are, we've had a lot of people being quite tearful at the end of the performance and quite moved by it.
So yeah, so there was a few interesting things that kind of came up time and again. One of those was like a sense of person, which Kerryn was talking about. And the other was a sense of place, and so this whole experience happens in quite a familiar domestic setting, but you're kind of nowhere recognisable. It's kind of a dream, kind of like a deja vu kind of situation. You're invited to walk around and explore this kind of place, and but we're kind of tricking people in some ways. There's the scenes dissolve and you appear in a new place. Characters kind of appear and disappear. And approach you and retreat, and there are moments of frustration where you want to step into a place where you can't, and people sort of reach out at arm's length but never quite close enough to touch you, and you see this kind of house, this house in different ways. So it's a small house, it's a larger house, it grows, you're asked to step inside, you're not able to step inside, and it's very much a lockdown project and kind of very much of its time, and there's a single kind of performer in the middle of this, and then this isolated kind of building in which you're the kind of missing piece of the jigsaw as the audience member as well, and it's very different for different people, and we always like really enjoy hearing what people have got to say afterwards, because it can be very different for different people. So it's a little unsettling at times. We sort of make and break some of the rules, the laws of physics and what you'd expect from encountering people and places, and it becomes kind of quite emotive and quite dreamlike, and it's a bit melancholic, and often leaves people with this sort of sense of longing or loss or something along those kind of lines. We got a nice quote from someone that said that they felt time had slowed down and they were transported to a different place, one that felt familiar but otherworldly at the same time, and otherworldly but the connection to the character made it feel familiar, the sort of betwixt and between. So one of the things that virtual reality allowed us to do, as some people sort of working with performing arts in particular, was explore some new possibilities that you can't do in theatre spaces very easily. So there's opportunity to like copy and paste people and duplicate the same performer, so you can have multiple versions of performers, like multiple instances meeting themselves, and so Kerryn's able to duet with herself in a virtual space. They can meet and combine and change and disappear and morph. One of the interesting things with virtual reality is because it's quite a visual experience, and yet you feel it's, your kind of lizard brain kicks in and you're like, this person is too close, or I need to step out of their path. Is something that we play with a little bit, so that performers can step through you, and you kind of instinctively step out of their way. But we also encourage you to kind of like break some of those rules and walk through these permeable visual spaces, and also challenge you in different ways. So some things feel sort of naturalistic, others unreal. We sort of spin things around and do some impossible things. But people come with their own expectations about virtual reality and how to engage with it, some of which we deliberately sort of play with, and so it's a good leveler if you're a VR pro or whether you're completely fresh to it. So we challenge people to break some of those barriers. We ask people we offer up the opportunity to do certain things or to act in certain ways, and whether you do that is very much up to you and it's your choice. And we use the Guardian system, which is typically a safety system, to stop you bumping into your wardrobe in virtual reality as a kind of interdimensional barrier that reminds you at certain points that you are in a physical space, and if you go further in one direction, you will bump into a wall. But we use that as a kind of sort of mixed reality component to once again reinforce this concept of facades and real and perceived walls.
So yeah, we have got quite a few tour dates coming up, and also always looking for new venues to tour it to. So if you are a curator or you have a venue, then get in touch. yeah, and do come and try and see it over the next